In today's video, we're going to be going over what some analysts predict about the PlayStation 5, one of the biggest elements about the PS5's release, and that is the price, and they are expecting it to be higher than PS4's launch price, and they're also thinking Xbox Series X is likely to match PS5 pricing. We'll go over all of that. PlayStation 5 price to be higher than PS4's launch price, that's what analysts are predicting, and Xbox Series X likely to match PS5 in pricing. Much has been said and written about the pricing of the PS5 and Xbox Series X. I've been of the mindset that anything above $500 would be an absolute misfire. I think $400 would be ideal, given that that was the price point the PS4 released at, but I also understand that if the PS5 is coming out with a hardware that it's suggested to be an SSD, ray tracing capable hardware, I understand that $400 might be a little bit too low and you'd be going way too negative. So I understand the standpoint of releasing it at $450 or $500, and with recent rumors claiming that Microsoft's console will be the most powerful console of the two, a higher price tag for the Series X seemed likely. However, according to both IHS marketing technology analyst Piers Harding-Rose and Caden Games analyst Serkan Toto, both the PS5 and Xbox Series will have a similar price tag upon of $499 US, meaning that Sony's console will be priced considerably higher than the PS4 launch price of $399. Now, of course, the Xbox One did release its model at $500, however, it came with Kinect. Kinect was mandatory. Ultimately, that was a pretty ridiculous decision, and Microsoft did eventually release a base Xbox One console that was just the console not that long after, and that was, of course, $400. That really should have been what was offered from the get-go, so it made all the sense. With Piers Harding-Rose, here's what they said. Quote, I expect PS5 to outsell Xbox Series X in 2020, but for both platforms to sell more consoles at launch than both the PS4 and Xbox One did back in 2013. One new factor for this upcoming generation is the impact of backwards compatibility on brand loyalty and audience transition. I think we'll see less brand switching as a result. I also expect pricing of both PS5 and Xbox Series X to be similar, and I think it's more likely than not they will be higher than the PS4 launch price point of $399. A high price point may prompt Microsoft to follow through with a dual-pronged product strategy and release a less powerful, cheaper version of its next-gen platform during the launch window. I don't expect Sony to follow this product strategy at launch, so this approach would give Xbox more go-to market flexibility, although it would also add complexity around marketing and consumer education. That's really been my go-to argument about splitting up the consoles in terms of having two different models. I would love it. I think it would be best for the consumer to have different options. However, I come from the standpoint of hardcore gaming. I come from the standpoint, and all of you viewers, you guys know what's going on. You know what's going on in gaming. However, when you are catering towards a more casual consumer, they don't know left from right with some of these gaming elements. They don't know what the difference with the PS4 Pro and the PS4 is, and releasing two separate models right out of the gate could be a little bit confusing, especially because these are big ticket holiday items, and you're not really trying to confuse, the moms and dads that don't know much about gaming and they're just looking to pick up a console for their kid. You don't want to have two separate models. That's just going to be a little bit of a headache. I don't think it would be the worst idea in the world. My argument against that has been, hey, put all the marketing muscle towards the cheaper variant of the console. That is the console I believe the majority of people would end up buying, and then the premier model, that is where you put less of your marketing push, because that is the console that the hardcore, more ardent gamer is going to end up buying, and they'd already be in the know and they'll just pick it up. Keep something like that to the side. That's always been my argument, but nonetheless, Piers Harding-Rose does also know, personally, I would wait to bring a cheaper version to the market, and in this case, the idea is actually to release the premier version right away and then introduce a cheaper model for the Xbox. The way it was done this generation, of course, we had the PlayStation 4, and then we had the PS4 Pro. We had the Xbox One, then we had the Xbox One X, so it would be a little bit different. But nonetheless, the same idea. According to Serkan Toto, Microsoft will be keen to avoid the mistakes it made with the original Xbox One. As such, it's expected to be at least as powerful as the PS5, and it will likely have the same price as Sony's console upon launch. Again, Xbox One was only available with a 500GB hard drive, one controller, and a Kinect for $499, and they lowered the price of that and did remove Kinect from the bundle as a mandatory item. Toto noted, both consoles will be a lot more similar to each other in terms of specs, pricing, and features when compared to the last generation. Microsoft will likely avoid shenanigans like a higher price. I expect $499 price tags for both, weaker specs, restrictions to used disc sales, etc. They're expecting that to be avoided. Of course, Microsoft really did themselves in with a lot of their marketing decisions. It was just a train wreck marketing the Xbox One, quite possibly the worst promoted console of all time, and then couple that with the generational problem of the atrocious first-party lineup. I mean, there were a couple of okay games, but comparatively speaking to the PlayStation 4, man, it was night and day, and that really gave PS4 a big advantage. They also noted, I also expect no handheld versions of PSVR 2 and only a single device instead of the PS5 Standard and Pro, for example, for both companies at launch. I do think ultimately they'll introduce a higher end model, but it seems like both analysts are assuming that we'll only have a singular model at launch. I think that's a little bit of a bummer, but nonetheless, I'm probably in the minority on that. I really think the difference maker outside of the price, of course, the price has to be equivalent on each end because I think that would be a legitimate difference maker. How high you go on the price is one thing. However, I think there needs to be that air of competitiveness between the two consoles, and they have to be priced similarly, because if they're not, they're so similar and they have so much of the same game crossover that people are just gonna gravitate towards the cheaper console. The argument can be made that, hey, PS4 games can be played on PS5, so the PlayStation gamers are more likely to stick with PlayStation, and there are more PlayStation gamers out there just based on the numbers that we have. But still, in a hypothetical world where the PlayStation 5 is more expensive than the Xbox Series X, I think that would be really bad. Also because I know that this generation, one of the major things has been, hey, PlayStation 4 has the exclusives, Xbox cannot compete. Guys, if you think that is going to be the same story next generation, you are kidding yourself. This entire generation, Phil Spencer laid the foundation from a software side of things with things like backwards compatibility, Game Pass, and all of these other things, but in the background, what he was doing was really setting up next generation for success, acquiring studios like Obsidian, a Ninja Theory, developing studios like Coalition and brand new studios, Playground working on an open world RPG. There is going to be legit competition from a first party side of things, and Microsoft is not just gonna sit down and they're just gonna let Sony release God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn 2, another Uncharted, Infamous, whatever the case may be, have all their first party rolling out major titles, and Microsoft isn't gonna fight back. You are kidding yourself if you think that is the case. We already know about Hellblade 2, we already know about Halo Infinite, we already know that Playground is working on a open world RPG. That could be a Fable 4. Right there, you have a trio of premier games. Coalition is still out there. Obsidian is going to be working on a major RPG that will be exclusive, at least a console exclusive on Xbox. There are just so many more factors in place when you're talking about Microsoft heading into next generation. Guys, I know what you're thinking. You saw it being an absolute one-sided stomp this generation, with PlayStation 4 having the better promotion out of the gate, having the better price point out of the gate, but that is not going to be the story next generation. These guys learned from their mistakes. Why the PlayStation 4 did so well is because Sony learned from their mistakes on the PlayStation 3. If you don't think Microsoft is going to learn about their mistakes from the Xbox One, they already have. That's why they acquired all these studios. That's why they're making a console that's catered towards the gamers. That's why they're offering so much value with things like Game Pass. They introduced consumer-friendly features like backwards compatibility. They've been doing a lot of good, and it's going to make next generation a lot more interesting from a competitive side of things than this generation. And that is good for everyone involved. If you want a one-sided stomp, I don't know what kind of consumer you are, that is horrible for the consumer, because that opens the door for Sony to do anti-consumer practices such as blocking out crossplay, not putting an emphasis on backwards compatibility, because if people are buying the PlayStation 5 without backwards compatibility, who cares? Ultimately, because Xbox introduced backwards compatibility, that is really going to push Sony to keep backwards compatibility and add full backwards compatibility to their own console. The idea is iron sharpens iron, and both manufacturers and both publishers are going to propel each other forward. Microsoft has pushed Sony forward, Sony has pushed Microsoft forward. Look, if Xbox One was just killing PlayStation 4 this generation without any exclusives, they wouldn't have put as much emphasis on acquiring studios and making exclusives. If backwards compatibility wasn't so well received on the Xbox One, Sony may have not put as much emphasis on developing backwards compatibility. At least I assume that they are putting emphasis on that. And hey, if they didn't see Microsoft was putting more emphasis into their first party, they might have put the foot off a little bit on the gas pedal on developing more first party titles. Again, this is why you need competition. You never want one manufacturer to destroy another manufacturer. You never want a monopoly. You never want things like that, because ultimately that is going to be bad, horrible, atrocious for the consumer. I don't know how many superlatives I can use, but that is just the worst case scenario, and you want everything to come together and create the most competitive environment possible. Sure, does that mean one console might sell less than the other, or whatever the case may be? Whatever. Who cares about that? You want the best consumer value possible, and that is breeded through competition, and that's why we need that. Nonetheless, I'm rambling at this point, so that's going to conclude this video. Definitely sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.